What's up, everybody? This is Daniel Harms, film analyst here at the RGR Football Channel. Make sure you guys are hitting that like, hit the bell, hit the sub, everything, so we can continue to pump out great content. You can continue to watch all the great content that we're going to have for the upcoming 2022. Yeah, I was right. I said that right. The 2022 NFL season. Now, I'm still working on getting preseason all 22. I know that there's some out there for other places that, let's just say, I'm not entirely sure why. But regardless, I'm going to be getting it for you. Unfortunately, I don't have it for this week. So what I have is based off of what little I could garner, specifically from the wide receivers and the corners and the safeties that I'll talk about today. But I want to talk about some under-the-radar players that impressed me. Maybe not one so under the radar, but what I mean by under the radar for that specific player is what his potential in this offense could be when it comes to the season and playing later on. So I'm excited to talk about it because I think this was a game that, yeah, who cares about the wins and losses? But what this comes down to for me, is that being able to watch them in first game action. Some of them rookies, some of them not, some trying to really earn a spot and solidify their ceilings and really what they could do in this offense if given the opportunities, or defense if given the opportunity. So we're going to talk about some under the radar players, things you may have missed while you were watching. I know it's really hard to watch one player or one specific area while you're watching a game, especially when the ball's coming out. Like, typically, even I find myself doing it where the ball's going down the field and I'm watching something, all of a sudden the ball's gone. I'm like, oh, I want to watch football. So yeah, sometimes we all kind of have some trouble. So I want to talk about some guys that I went back through, I watched, and that really caught my eye in good ways. And the first guy I want to talk about is Jaylen Watson, a guy who actually just bumped off Lonnie Johnson from this roster. Like, he's been impressing, he's been impressive, and he's doing a really great job of making the most of his opportunities, working with the ones earlier this week in training camp. And I'm telling you right now, he is a very intriguing player because while he doesn't necessarily have the traits that I think Joshua Williams does in that specific man off coverage zone, or excuse me, off man coverage area, where he's got the length and the ball skills, and really that ability to kind of be a sticky area player. I think he's very good in both man and zone ability. Communication is very important. A couple times I saw him communicating with the underneath defender who's going to take a guy in the corner and being able to change directions pretty well. That's something that we saw twice at least. Now, I know that he had an area where he came down for the running back on the Bears and he overran it and he just juked inside or cut inside and was off to the races. That's just being a little over aggressive from a rookie, a guy who's in his first playing time, trying to make a play, especially behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. So what he did was he was trying to push him inside. He just took that angle far too to the outside and let the running back just kind of cut up and inside. I think it was Tristan Ebner that did that, and then he ran for like 20 or 30 yards, something like that. But regardless, he was very good in coverage, and I think that as he gets better and gets more comfortable, that's only going to continue to impress. And that's the reason that one of the reasons Lonnie Johnson is no longer on the roster, outside of him just not being very, very impressive and very good. Something advertised by the level of draft capital that was put forward into Johnson. So that's something I really like. Jaylen Watson has a very good opportunity not only to make this roster, but he's going to be someone that they count on that to be a backup and be someone that comes in, maybe rotates every now and then, because they have done a great job of addressing the corner, addressing the entire secondary in this past draft, taking shots on guys like Najee Johnson, Jaylen Watson, Joshua Williams. All those guys are going to be on this roster, I think. I mean, Nazee's going to be battling for it here and there, but he's going to have a shot too. So Brett Veach, everyone deserves a big shout out for the guys that they drafted in this past draft that weren't named Trent McDuffie in the secondary. They're going to have shots to make this team. The second guy I want to talk about is Khalen Saunders, who been up and down. They bring in a couple of defensive tackles in this offseason, and we're all wondering what he's going to do. I know that Taylor Stallworth kind of set him up with that swim move, but what he could do that Taylor Stallworth couldn't have done is run down that running back in the getting underneath and in that flat area, being able to run him down and get a tackle for loss outside of just beating that guy on his move. That was one of the more impressive things I saw specifically from him, but he was also getting in the trenches, taking on some double teams, doing a good job of locating the football, and just being a more active player than we've seen over the course of the last year. I think that he's going to have an opportunity to make the roster, and when you can be specifically, he's going to have to show a little bit more in the pass rush department for them to probably go ahead and move on. Because if you figure that he's more of a defensive tackle who's going to take on some doubles now that he looks a bit bigger and he doesn't have necessarily the juice to continue to work his hands like he did in that preseason game, then you have him and Stallworth that are kind of battling it out, from my opinion. And you have the guy from the Giants, who right now I'm forgetting his name, and you guys know who I'm talking about. He was just added to the roster on Monday. So he's good. They're all going to be kind of that same player where they're taking on doubles, but they don't have much pass rush juice. So you really don't want to have too many of those guys in your roster. But if Khalen Saunders can show that he can be more of a threat to pass rush, get off the blocks a little bit here and there, and get after a quarterback and close with that speed that we saw, he's going to have a very good chance to make this roster because he'll have a multifaceted ability to stuff up some runs, take on some doubles, and then get after the passer. So I'm excited about that. I think he played really well in this game, and I did notice that he came out of the game before Taylor Stallworth did. So that might be a little inkling about how they feel about him going forward. Another guy, I think this was the guy that had the best day, the most obvious day, someone who solidified themselves. Really, he was already almost a lock, and somebody who I was dead wrong about. Justin Watson making his impact felt down the seam for that skinny post for a touchdown from Shane Buechele. He has solidified himself as a receiver on this team. And what I think that can be used more is what I mean by him being more under the radar, is because he could push for playing time, not just be the wide receiver 5, but a guy who could back up MVS, maybe even play some of the snaps for him, because if we're being honest, MVS hasn't been the most impressive player, and not saying that he won't start and be a productive player, but Watson provides a lot of the same skill set that MVS does, and I think he could be a better route runner. But what I'm really trying to get at is that Juju, MVS, and Justin Watson, probably Doris Fountain to an extent, are all going to be used as these big receivers, especially if you see those two high safeties. They're going to be attacking that area of the field where Justin Watson scored that touchdown, behind the linebackers and in between the safeties, with big receivers. Mahomes is going to throw it in there multiple times, especially near the 30 or 20 yards in towards that red zone. I think that's going to be something you're looking forward to. Justin Watson just showed you that he can attack that, catch it, go elevate and get that football and come down for a touchdown. So I think he's adding some versatility. He's adding some value to himself, not only just solidifying a roster spot, but being a guy who's going to push for playing time. So I'm very impressed with what he's been able to do and what he could be doing in this offense going forward. Another player that I want to talk about, Mike Dana, was the starter alongside Frank Clark, something that caught a lot of people's attention by eye, surprised a little bit here and there. But not only has he been having a great camp and he's been showing better, I think that we can attribute a lot of everything that's gone on to Dave Cullen, the new defensive tackle coach. Cullen has been doing a great job. You've seen improvement just pretty much across the board from everybody. I've seen a lot of it from Mike Dana, and his pass rush moves have been so much better. He was already a pretty good run defender, and he was a worker, that at work ethic guy, continued to grind out pass rush ability. Every now and then he find himself in a sack situation where he could close, but he was winning a little bit more in this preseason game, and I think that they showed that he is very, very easily, if not the starter. Like, I think that Karlaftis eventually, carve out his role. He'll be, named a starter, but I think that Mike Dana's got himself in a position to be able to be a starter. That four-man rotation they're going to have with Clark, with Dana, and Karlaftis, and Dunlap, they're going to be able to rotate all four of those guys out pretty much at will, and I think that's really, really good to keep everyone healthy, keep everyone fresh, continue to rotate those pass rushers and those run defenders to keep your defense fresh. That's going to be the most important thing. We talked about it for the course of the last couple of seasons. Another guy that stood out there that's going to be able to rotate, Malik Herring, I think is going to bump Joshua Kando off this roster. He looks way better. His handwork is impressive. But him and Mike Dana both, granted, I hadn't seen Malik Herring in the NFL to this point, and that's one of the most impressive things I saw was his handwork and being able to fight off blocks and and really kind of, how receivers will stack DBs, and what I mean by stack is when you have a receiver here basically, and he's working against a corner. This way. Okay, so this is the corner, this is the receiver, and you stack when you become parallel with them. So in the same sense, Malik Herring was able to stack tackles pretty well in that game. He was just having some trouble getting to that next level, and I think that there's a lot of room for improvement, a lot of upside there for him. So he and Mike Dana are both guys that I think improved a lot over the course of the offseason, and Dana's going to be a guy that plays obviously quite a bit, and he's going to surprise a lot of people this season. The very last player that I'm going to talk about is somebody who I didn't even notice the first time around. And it's funny how that works. But he has been, when Orlando Brown was not at camp, Jerron Christian was the starting left tackle. Okay? And right now, he is going to be the right tackle / left tackle backup. He might even end up starting at right tackle if Andrew Wiley can't hold it down throughout the whole season. I think Andrew had some tough snaps against the Bears, and Christian played very well. His footwork is still a little clumpy at times, but he recovers well. He keeps the defenders in front of him. I think he recovers pretty well too. He understands the ability to just kind of push them upfield if he has to. He can collapse inside. I think he was pretty decent at run blocking as well, but his ability to pass block, I think, is what separates him from a lot of the other guys on this roster. And I think that's the reason that he was the guy starting at left tackle when Orlando Brown wasn't there. He's got the size, he has the length, he has the ability. 35 inch plus arms. The dude's got huge arms. Like, he's going to be able to play that spot. And I think that he could challenge Andrew Wiley for the right tackle spot. I mean, I know that it's not just a one-for-one replacement, being able to play left and being able to play right, but I think that he could be an upside guy. And he played very well. I think he's got a lot of upside and someone that they're pretty confident in. He continues to play like that, have that confidence level going in. He could be an extremely valuable swing tackle for them. Probably more of it when I mean swing tackle, meaning left or right tackle. I'm not sure I want to see him on the inside, but being on the outside of tackle, I think I'm pretty comfortable seeing him there. He looked apart, and I think that everything we've been hearing out of camp is very well warranted. So all of these guys really impressed me after my watch through. If you guys want to see the clips that I'm going to end up posting, make sure to follow me on Twitter at InHarmsWay19. I'm going to continue to post more of the broadcast clips there. I can't post them on YouTube for copyright reasons, but I will continue to find clips here and there and post them on Twitter so you guys can see the guys that I'm talking about. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm going to keep working to get that preseason All-22 located and acquired for the RGR staff. We're going to continue to try to find that any way we can. I know Seth has some. Unfortunately, I can't get it from him, so make sure you're following him on Twitter at Seth Kaiser so you can see the All-22 clips that he puts down. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the Chief of the North. He's already got multiple articles out that you can go and read at your leisure. He does a great job. We all know that. That's why he's here with us every Thursday. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown of guys that surprised me, that you may have missed. And if you guys have someone that I didn't talk about that impressed you, whether it was a starter, whether it was a backup, a fourth stringer, go ahead and put it in the comments. Tell me what you thought about them and how you think they can contribute to this team going forward, who you're looking forward to seeing playing on Saturday in the most important game for the starters as it pertains to the preseason. So I'm excited to see it. Real football is almost essentially here. We get to actually watch Patrick Mahomes and the offense continue at that great start they had against the Bears into Saturday and hopefully carry that all along throughout the season. So I hope you guys like that. Make sure you hit that like, hit the bell notification, and the sub for the channel. We appreciate you guys' support so much, and I hope you guys have a great week.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.